Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and at the start of the year, I did a video where I talked about the Bulldogs needing to sign Brandon Smith, and I still believe it. I truly believe it, and as the season's gone on, it's become so much more evident that they should have signed him at the start of the season. We're 16 rounds in, and his value has gone from here, and it's just been skyrocketing. He's had so much opportunity to play that number 9 position for the Storm, and that's where I think the Bulldogs are lacking. And I remember talking about in that video just the possibilities for Brandon Smith. It might not even be in that video in particular, but I was talking about Brandon Smith and how with Harry Grant injured at the start of the season, it was a great opportunity for him to get a couple of weeks into the season and sort of just prove his worth at the number 9 position, because he hadn't really played the hooker position. He'd played a couple of games here and there, and to start the season, he wasn't too crash hot at the number 9. I know the Storm were sort of winning. I know they got beat in the second round, but they were still playing pretty decent, but it wasn't really due to Brandon Smith. He was getting gassed 60 minutes into the game. They were bringing on guys like Tyson Smoothie and guys who probably shouldn't be in first grade, let's be honest, and he'd have to have a spell. But when he was on the field, they were so much better. So we knew the potential was there. We knew Brandon Smith could play hooker. We've seen it in the past. We've seen him play in the All-Stars. We've seen him play for New Zealand. We know he's a fantastic hooker, but it was starting to get to the point where I was like, well, Harry Grant's there. We're just going to have to transition Brandon Smith into that lock position because he can't last a full game at the hooker position. Boy, were we wrong. He just needed to just get the fitness up, because apparently he'd been training as a lock throughout the whole preseason, and then he just got thrown in at the hooker position to start the season due to a late injury to Harry Grant. So realistically, looking back in hindsight, should have been a little bit more lenient on him and should have understood how it was just a last minute adjustment, and it was going to take some time, but he's had a lot of time to adjust. And at the moment, I would say on form, I think Brandon Smith is the best hooker in the comp at the moment. And it's funny to think that he might not be the actual best hooker at the club. And he probably has never been the best hooker at the club. Well, definitely hasn't. Cameron Smith was there before. Now he's got Harry Grant, and he hasn't really got his opportunity apart from injuries. And Harry Grant is injured a hell of a lot. So the point of this video, I'm talking about Brandon Smith up against Harry Grant. Who is more valuable to the Storm? And is Brandon Smith an actual better hooker than Harry Grant? Because I think it's actually a real question at the moment. Going into the season, I feel like everybody had Harry Grant as the number 1 hooker in the comp. He had just come off, the Queensland triumph, the underdog story. He got them up. He had a great season at the Tigers, albeit half a season, but he was leading the Dally M at that point in his rookie season. So everything was saying that Harry Grant was going to be the future of the Melbourne Storm. And then they said, Brandon Smith, you can go look elsewhere. He's talking to the Bulldogs, probably talking to some other clubs, but we know for sure he's had chats with the Bulldogs and nothing has happened. And now he said that he's staying next season, which was what he wasn't going to be doing. So he's extended his stay by 1 season compared to what it was going to be. So look, it's looking more and more likely that Brandon Smith might actually stay at the Melbourne Storm. And I think he's the most valuable player, maybe at the Storm and maybe even in the whole comp, because he can cover the hook position. He can also cover every position in the 4-pack. He's super versatile and he's super reliable too. He gets in there, he does the hard yards, takes those shit runs, does plenty of tackles, rarely injured, and that's something that we can't say for Harry Grant. Now, this is where the competition sort of starts with him and Harry Grant, because we know on the day Harry Grant is the best hooker in the comp, you'd have to say. Like, he is the best 9, but the problem is he's not on the park a hell of a lot. Even this season, he's played 7 games. We're in round 16 at the moment. You take into account a couple of buys and origin, that sort of stuff. So maybe he's out of 14 games, he's been available for 7, so that's half the games. And in those 7 games, he's probably only been fit for a handful of those games. So look, it hasn't really been a great season for Harry Grant overall. Even last season, he played 15 games. He was outstanding, top in the Dally M leaderboard, and then he had a season-ending injury. So that's 2 seasons for Harry Grant and 2 sort of injury-riddled series. Now, we've seen in the past, you don't want to write off guys, especially with him doing his hamstring. You can kind of draw comparisons. Like, Tedesco was injured a lot to start his career. Tom Trbojevic has only really come good this year, and look how good he's going now. Even guys like Sonny Bill Williams, Benji Marshall, they had a lot of injuries early on in their career, and then eventually it sort of went good. But for every sort of, James Tedesco and Tom Trbojevic, there's always guys like your Kyle Stanleys and just guys who could never get over the injury and never actually reach any of their potential. Now, Harry Grant obviously has shown a lot. He's actually played at the highest level. Obviously hasn't won the premiership, probably will come this year. And no doubt about it, Melbourne are a better side when Harry Grant plays. When Harry Grant's in the side and you have Brandon Smith, they're a much better side. But at the moment, if you take out Brandon Smith, I feel like he's even more important than Harry Grant. They can still win without Harry Grant. Without Brandon Smith, I think they can still win just because of how good the side is, but I think he's definitely super valuable to that side, and they dip down in form a little bit if Brandon Smith doesn't play. I honestly think he just brings so much to that side, and he brings all the intangibles. I feel like he just brings that energy. Even when you see the little training clips, he's always the guys like, yeah, let's go boys, let's up the intensity, and I feel like that's what he actually brings, intensity. And I don't know if anyone else at the Melbourne Storm does that. There's lots of guys who are super competitive, competitive, definitely like your Fanukins and even like Munster, super competitive, but they don't just bring that intensity that Brandon Smith does. The hectic cheese, he just comes in, he can put a shot on, he can take that little run, he's scoring plenty of tries at the moment, and you can chuck him in the number 8, the number 9, number 10, 11, 12, 13, and he'll do a job for you. So in that regards, he definitely is more valuable than Harry Grant. But just in terms of actual hooker play styles, I feel like Brandon Smith really suits the modern game at the moment, and all of the set restarts and the 6 agains and all that sort of stuff. I think he fits it to a T, and Harry Grant obviously does fit it. And like I said, I feel like realistically, you actually compare the two, Harry Grant is the better hooker. But Brandon Smith is putting the runs on the board. He's getting in there. He's playing every game. Even you go back years. I had the stats written down, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. But it was something like he played like 18 last year. It was 23 year before, 18 year before that. Like he's got runs on the board. He plays most of the games. He's rarely injured. Whereas Harry Grant has 2 years, and when he's played, he's been really good. But that's it. When he plays, he's good. Now, for the Storm going forward, can you risk letting go of Brandon Smith, knowing that Harry Grant hasn't really put together a full season? He's put together parts of a season and he's looked absolutely outstanding, looked like the best hooker in the comp. But what do you do when you get to the final series and all of a sudden Brandon Smith's not there? So first off, your forward pack's a little bit weaker. Looks like Finucane's going to be leaving as well. So your forward pack's a little bit weaker. And then also add in the fact that Harry Grant's injured. Like, what do you do there? Now, I know I'm talking about the Melbourne Storm here. Chances are they unearth some other talent. And there's a dude who's playing bloody 3rd grade in the Queensland comp, and he comes into the Melbourne system and he ends up an absolute superstar. It just seems to be what Melbourne does. They take all these guys who, are sort of fringe players at other clubs or not even getting a go, and they come to the Storm, they end up as superstars. Look at Ryan Pappenhausen, look at Nico Hines, even guys like Drinkwater is going to other clubs and being pretty good. Remus Smith's another one. Like, there's so many examples of it, of the Storm poaching guys from other sides who aren't really getting opportunities and then coming over. So no doubt if they lost Brandon Smith, and Harry Grant does get injured, they would find someone. It's just the Melbourne Storm way. But that's what I just wanted to point out. The fact that Harry Grant is always injured, and that's what it seemed like anyways. And you've got Brandon Smith there, who at the moment, like I said, he is the form number 9 of the whole comp. He's the New Zealand number 9. He's like the All-Stars number 9 for the Maori side. And if he was playing for Queensland, you'd think he'd be the Queensland number 9. Like, he's such a good player, Brandon Smith. And it's crazy to think the Melbourne Storm have just for so many years, I say so many years, like going back to 2017, 2018, whenever Brandon Smith first came in. But they had arguably 2 super good first-grade hookers. You had Cameron Smith, who's the best. Then you had Brandon Smith, who was an up-and-comer, and they sort of played him in other positions. And then finally he gets his opportunity, but no, he doesn't, because Harry Grant's there. So look, I feel really bad for Brandon Smith, but he's been absolutely killing it in 2021. And it went from being a conversation of, well, Brandon Smith, he can go, like he's sort of valuable, he's versatile for the Storm, but they got Harry Grant there, where now it's an actual legitimate comparison. Like, it's an actual legit competition of what do Melbourne do? Do they keep Harry Grant in the side? Do they keep Brandon Smith in the side? Like, I think even for the rest of the season, if Harry Grant comes back, do you put him on the bench? Do you play Brandon Smith to start the game and then transition him into the forwards? I don't really know what you do if you're the Melbourne Storm, and it's a great headache to have. But it's like a similar position they're in with Pappenhausen. It's like they got Pappenhausen there, but they got Nico Hines playing really well. Look, if Pappenhausen's fit, you think he'd be the number 1, but what do you do with Nico Hines? And then what do you do with Harry Grant? You can't carry all these different utilities, but look, it's the Melbourne Storm way, they'll find a way. But going forward, do the Melbourne Storm look to keep Brandon Smith? I'm not saying they're going to shift Harry Grant. By no means do you want to shift Harry Grant, but do you make an extra effort to keep Brandon Smith rather than letting him go? Because I know he wants to play the number 9, but he's just so valuable. So I feel like you've got to find a way for Melbourne Storm to keep Brandon Smith, keep him happy. And I know they said that he can move to another club, but he's already reneged on that, and he's not leaving early. So maybe there is a chance for the Melbourne Storm to keep Brandon Smith. And look, I think it'd be a shame if Brandon Smith always plays a second fiddle to someone. I think he definitely needs to be the permanent number 9. But it's just crazy how at the start of the season, it was a no contest. Like, Brandon Smith, he was an okay, he's a bit part hooker. He could do a job there, but he wasn't going to be a superstar hooker. And a lot of people, like I said, when I was saying, oh yeah, well, he should sign up for the Bulldogs, people were like, like, he's pretty good, but he's not who the Bulldogs need. Like, you need like a superstar number 9, and he's only really played lock as of late. He's more of a forward. I think he's the best lock in the world, all this sort of stuff. And now, 16 rounds into the comp, you can make a legit argument that he's the best hooker in the world at the moment. And I know, like I said, there's always going to be talk about Harry Grant and Damien Cook and all these sort of guys. But yeah, for me, Brandon Smith at the moment is the form 9. it does help that Melbourne are in the form of their life, scoring at will. They're setting records left, right, and centre. But Brandon Smith is a big part of that, and he scored 9 tries this year, so he's been scoring a hell of a lot of tries. A lot of them just that dart out of dummy half right near the line. They can't stop him. They know what's going to happen, and they can't stop him. He's just so damaging. He's so hard to tackle. And look, I think wherever he goes or wherever he stays, if he stays at Melbourne, he's going to be so valuable for that side. And personally, I hope it is at the Bulldogs. But yeah, it's just crazy to me to think back at how quickly things can change in one season. Where all of a sudden Harry Grant was the sure thing to be the number 9, and then all of a sudden we're getting to the back end of the season and Brandon Smith is playing so well that you think, well, maybe Harry Grant is on the bench. Maybe he continues there. Maybe he gets injured again, and maybe Storm starts maybe they start looking at other options. I don't really know. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's just something to talk about. But leave in the comment section below, what are your thoughts of the Melbourne Storm situation? Does Brandon Smith start? Does Harry Grant start going forward? Do they try and keep Brandon Smith, or do they keep Harry Grant at the number 9 position? Let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, that's where I'm going to end this video. Hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, make sure to use the notification bell. It's super important in terms of you actually seeing these videos. Don't rely on the sub boxes. Also, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. It's Mr. Luke just for Facebook, but for everything else, it's Mr. Luke and YT. So go ahead, give me a follow, give me a like, do all that sort of stuff. And that's where I'm ending this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See yous.